Today we're going to be looking at some of the anti-blister and anti-chafe creams for runners and triathletes, going over the pros and cons of all of them, and telling you which one you should really avoid. How's it going, everyone? Justin here. You're on Justin Does Triathlon. So if you are a runner or a triathlete and you've ever experienced blisters or chafing, you've probably done some searching to try to find some anti-blister and anti-chafe creams. A little bit of context about me: I currently run between 40 and 55 miles a week. Super quick primer on blisters before we actually get into the products. They're basically formed when a warm, moist environment has a little bit of friction. And a lot of these products also claim to be anti-chafe. General principle behind most of these products is exactly the same. They provide a low friction coating to reduce the rubbing that ultimately leads to blisters. Basically, over the past 2 or 3 months, all of them have had is at least 18 miles, usually in dry conditions, but at least one of the short ones I made sure to use in a wet environment as well. Lastly, if you decide to go ahead and check any of them out, there's links down below. If you use the links, it doesn't cost you any extra and it supports the channel and I get a few bucks. I really put my feet on the line for this one and it didn't always work great for me, so I super appreciate it. All right, so we got that out of the way. Let's go ahead and dive in. Number one is the good old-fashioned petroleum jelly. So a couple interesting things about petroleum jelly. It used to be sort of the go-to a long time ago before all these sport-specific products came along. In my experience, it actually still works pretty well. It's super cheap, $3-4 for a bottle. It does a great job of providing a low friction coating. It's not gonna really absorb into your skin. It's not gonna melt away when it gets wet because it's oil-based. That said, for both runners and triathletes, there's a couple serious drawbacks here. First off, for triathletes, you can't use this on your wetsuit. Petroleum jelly will basically attack neoprene, and a lot of the wetsuit manufacturers explicitly say to avoid it, and you'll also possibly void your warranty. Secondly, if you've never actually used it, it's really sticky and goopy, and it will really hold on to dirt. So if you're doing a lot of trail running or mud running, it's gonna be really hard to get that dirt out because this likes to hang on to dirt. Lastly, because it's oil-based, it tends to stain your clothes really bad. All you're gonna be using it for is between your toes, and you don't care about staining, and dirt isn't really gonna be an issue for you. You can actually probably get away with this, and it's probably gonna work really well for you. So number 2 on the list has grown in popularity a lot over the last 2 or 3 years, and that's called Squirrels Nut Butter. Really popular amongst the ultra running community. Interesting thing is, rather than being a full synthetic product like some of the other ones we're gonna talk about, it's basically beeswax mixed in with coconut oil, cocoa oil, and vitamin E oil. All of those ingredients they're claiming reduce irritation, friction, and the pain in the shower after a really long run. So overall, Squirrels Nut Butter has actually worked pretty well for me. Interesting thing is, because it's beeswax, you have to essentially melt it into your hands, put it on your feet, and then because your feet are warm, it stays in that liquid form and it doesn't really dry out. Your skin stays moist the entire time. It smells good, it's easy to apply, it's reasonably affordable. That said, unfortunately, as always, it feels like there's a couple of cons with everything. Back of the can actually says to store at 55 to 85 degrees. A lot of races are not between 55 and 85 degrees. A few weeks ago I was running and it was nearly freezing. I'd been running for a couple hours and I wanted to apply a little more, and this was basically like a rock inside. I really had to work to warm it up so I could actually get it on my feet. They do sell sort of a deodorant stick sort of applicator, but because of the amount of this that I like to put on, I don't think that would work as well for me. I like this container because I can really kind of dig into it. I haven't tested this yet, but I know that the flip side of that is also true. And a lot of my summer runs can easily hit 90 to 100 degrees. So it's pretty affordable. This little small container is about $5. The 2-ounce container is about $14. Quick little pro tip though, there's another product that I use outside of running called Obenauf's LP, which is a leather protector. I've found that it's actually very, very similar to Squirrels Nut Butter. It's also beeswax. It has 1 or 2 other ingredients. It's a leather protector, but they say you can also use it on your hands, and I've tried that as well. $14 for 2 ounces of SNB or $14 for 4 ounces of Obenauf's. Honestly, I might keep using the Obenauf's. All right, so number 3 on the list is called Canberra Gel, and if you've never heard of that, you're probably not the only one. This is actually a little sample container I picked up at the Marine Corps Marathon last October, and it turns out that that was actually the product introduction. It was like a soft launch for them. So Canberra is not a company that makes a lot of sports stuff. They make a lot of cleaning products. Their CEO and chief R&D person are competitive cyclists, and they made a product called Taint Paint, which is meant to be an anti-chafe. This uses the same active ingredient, but it's primarily targeted for runners with a name that's a lot more gender inclusive, shall we say. So it's basically a rather oily lotion with tea tree oil. It does feel very smooth and it goes on well. It's a lot closer to an actual lotion than anything else. And the active ingredient is tea tree oil, which seems to be something they use in a lot of their products. Should you buy it? No, I don't think you should. It doesn't work for me at all. In fact, it made my blisters terrible. Not only is the smell strong, but I did get blisters on a 5-mile run with this, which is very abnormal. And then because I got a blister, then the tea tree oil made it burn. So it was actively worse than had I not used a product at all. So that's a lot to say that I'm sure this works well for some. I'm sure that it works well for the people who developed it. But for me, once this review's done, it's going in the trash. So coming in at number 4 is the good old classic Body Glide. I did a poll on my channel asking you guys which anti-blister you use the most, and Body Glide was number 1 with about 75% of the vote. With all the testing that I've done, I keep coming back to Body Glide, and Body Glide is becoming my comparison product. I think the reason the Body Glide is so popular is it just ticks a lot of boxes right, and it doesn't really have any negatives that I've found. It's wetsuit safe, it works at all temperatures, it works and it works well. It's gonna be good for 3 to 5 hours at the bare minimum. All right, and the last product that I'm going to be sharing with you today is 2Tom's Blistershield. So this is one that was recommended to me a lot online, and I actually really wanted to enjoy it. It's a completely different concept than the other products we looked at. It's made out of PTFE, which is the same thing used to make Teflon. Couple pros, obviously it's not temperature sensitive like Squirrels Nut Butter or anything like that. They claim 24-hour protection because it's not going to absorb into your skin. They also claim that it's waterproof, which was generally true in my test. Couple of cons here though, because it's a powder, it's actually kind of hard to apply. It's not something that I do inside anymore. I know that some people have suggested just pouring it into your socks. In my testing though, I found that you really have to get the right amount. The first time I used it, I actually put way too much in, and it caused a lot of bunching in my socks, as well as it sort of balled up in the fabric of my socks, and it felt like I had super teeny little pebbles in the front of my socks. What works better for me is actually going outside, pouring it on my feet and rubbing it all over. Day-to-day usage is a little bit more frustrating than something like Body Glide. Or on a 3-hour run, it worked pretty well for me. Like I said, it's kind of a pain to apply, and you really have to dial in the right amount to use. It's about 15 bucks for this bottle right here, and I think it's gonna last about the same as a tube of Body Glide. For triathletes, this is not the option that I would go with because you're not gonna be able to use it to help get your wetsuit off. It's just gonna be a pain to coat your entire body in this. So overall, I don't love it, but it gets the job done. If what you've got right now isn't working for you, and if you're primarily a runner and you want something that you can try, I would give it a shot. That said, it's not gonna be my number 1 go-to. So with that said, what is the product that's become my go-to? It's still Body Glide. I think there's a reason why it's number 1. Squirrels Nut Butter is a very close number 2, and I like using it, but even then I find myself comparing it to Body Glide. Ultimately, those are just my experiences, so if you have a different experience, feel free to share it down below. If there's a product that you use that I didn't talk about, definitely share that so it can help some other people. As always, I hope you guys subscribe, leave a like. When you're done with YouTube today, go outside, do a kick-ass workout, and enjoy it. See you guys on the next one. Bye.